why are we still grappling with Paul Shetty today, after 60 years of being independent as a nation? I think that has more to do with the system of leadership again. You know, a power generation facility, for it to produce fruits, for it to produce electricity, it will take something like 5 or 7 to 10 years. You see that? And that becomes unattractive for politicians because they know they have a very limited period of time of being in power. So they wouldn't want to start a project today that will be commissioned by another maybe political party that is going to come after them. You see? As a result, they've not paid attention to such a critical facility, or should I say commodity or product that we need to have in our economy. Because for the economy to function, obviously we need power. You see, but it seems no one has taken that real interest of investing into this vital part of our economy. And of course, one of the reasons we could understand is they do not have money. Every time they try to do anything, they would want to go to the IMF, to the World Bank to borrow. You see, now you cannot continue borrowing on a daily basis. What sort of life are you creating for the future generations? So that's why we're saying when we nationalize all natural resources, then it will become very easy. We have Sujilite. Sujilite is very expensive, so we are told. We have gold, plenty of it. And we know gold is direct money. Gold is actually the actual money that we talk about. So, if we have all these things, why should we be going to borrow from someone else?
So in the monarchy, King said, I'm not to cut into you, Mr. Mwape. There will be no indebtedness as far as the monarchy is concerned.
When you assess, then you have liabilities as capital. So indebtedness can always be there, but how are you getting that indebtedness? Is it for production purposes or for consumption purposes? That's where the problem is. In a country, or should I say in a system like the one we have today, you would find that most of the credit, or should I say the debt that they attract, it goes into servicing, maybe paying for civil service salaries. That is consumption based. Paying for, of course, we could realize some benefits after maybe 20, when those kids that were taught by that teacher now graduate and they start producing. But that is that is way too far a period of time. So now what we're saying is we can be indebted, but let it be maybe to open up a mine so that we start processing gold, so that we are able to sell more gold and be able to pay back our debt in a short period of time, instead of restructuring and pushing it forward.
So in your monarchy of governance, will we then see a situation where there will be no other political parties now, in this case now, since we're a monarchy, is king?
Political parties will be there, but only at chiefdom level. Because remember I said...
At chiefdom level?
Yes, because that's where we need to have politics. Like I said, we all belong to a chiefdom at the end of the day. So if you want to practice, and the reason why we elect these leaders is because we want them to deliver. We want them to do maybe roads, put up clinics, put up bridges, things like that. And we don't need the nation to come into that. Those are local issues, you see that, which can be handled by a chiefdom of that particular place.
Okay.
Yeah, so political parties will be there, but they will have to be at the chiefdom level to elect prime minister to the chief.
So when you are king, it means one way or another. How do we have the next king now in such a sense? Now, since there will be no democracy, there will be no voting. Are you saying there will be no voting for the king now?
At national level, yes.
At national level. So how do we replace you as a king when we...
The normal way, I think we know what happens in Britain, in Norway, in Sweden, and all these places.
So in my family, anything can I take?
What's wrong with that? If I'm able to emancipate the nation, economically, socially, and politically, why wouldn't I be given that privilege?
So even yes. And then
that's how it is supposed to be. That's how we know kingdoms operate.
So now it will be a Mwape affair. So chiefdom, now kingdom ya Zambia.
Church. The thing is this around. Let us take it biblical way again. This thing of kingship is not something that came from without. It is something that is even ordained by the Almighty Himself. So it's not that I'm suggesting something that is completely unheard of. You see? It is something that even you yourself, if you believe in maybe Jesus Christ or Muhammad or Mahdi, you expect at some point to live in a kingdom. Because what is coming ahead of you, you like it or not, is a kingdom. So that is the future of humanity. You see that? So I'm not proposing something out of nothing or something that has never been done before. Yes.
So do you think that maybe it becomes a bit unpopular? Zambia is a kingdom in as far as light of Zambia is concerned. That those that would have aspired maybe in the future to want to be presidents or to lead at that level, and then now you've got a kingdom, it means their aspirations sort of die with it. So don't you think that maybe that becomes a bit unpopular?
The question, but the question would be, if I'm allowed to ask a question, what is the reason? What is the motive that people have for them to aspire for such a position like becoming president?
It's probably to lead people to, you know.
Yes. So if now you are being led in the correct way, you are being, you are enjoying your life, your economy is doing fine, you have all you want. Why would you want to become president? Then it means there is some motive, a fish motive behind that.
Okay.
Yes. Unless something is bad, yes. That's why there is what is called the revolution. People do stand up and rise up against such a person who is mishandling the affairs of the people. Yes.
We've seen in monarchs, for example, we'll take it, where you have, we hear more of the prime minister and less more of the queen or the king. It's like regular people back in Palace. They're not directly involved in the affairs of running the country. So in such a case, when Light of Zambia now forms up this kingdom, you as the king, will we see you actively involved in the running of the affairs, or we also take up that form that we know where we've got a kingdom? For example, Eswatini, right, has got a king there, and then you find that he's not directly involved, only here prime minister and prime minister. In such a case, is that the copy and paste model I was talking about, or yours becomes a different way altogether from that kind of monarch we know of?
It is to a large extent the same.
Okay.
Because of course I'm not proposing that we have a prime minister at national level.
Yeah.
But the king will appoint 3 people that are going to be working with the king. Of course I have this chart here which can explain all those things that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This one there.
Yeah.
So these are the people, the 3 people that will be running affairs on behalf of the king. I think many people do not really understand that the king, for example, the king of the United Kingdom, is fully involved in the day-to-day running of politics. How do I know this? You've noticed that most of the time, these prime ministers from the UK, it is so easy for them to resign their positions. I'm forced to think that they get a command from the king to say, you failed to deliver here, this is what we told you to do, and you failed to do it, therefore just resign. Yes, of course, I'm not saying that's how it is, but that's the way I look at it. You see that? So somehow, or according to my analysis of this, those kings, those queens, they actively participate. Yes. The only difference is, in my case, I would appreciate a system where I just appoint, or where the king just appoints, whoever becomes king, just appoints people to work with.
Okay.
Just to appoint them, those are the people that are going to be supervising projects in chiefdoms, together with the chief of that particular chiefdom.
So what happens to legislature, judiciary, and executive? Because I think this is where, for us, everything sort of it's the pivot. Everything balances on the 3 arms of government, and cries of that the fact that no, the executive is more, supreme than the other 2, because it appoints for the other 2. So what happens to such a system of the 3 arms of government when
prerogatives of the executive? You see? So similarly with us, that's why, okay, let me just qualify the point that I just made. I call them surrogates because the Speaker of the National Assembly is obviously appointed by the President, then ratified by Parliament, isn't it? The Chief Justice also comes through from the President. You see that? So it is only this one man on top that has more power, then the rest are just dancing to his tune. So similarly with our system, the Ubuntu model of governance, we are going to have those departments the legislature, and of course the legislature is the Council of 70 that I just talked about.
Okay.
Yes, and you'll have the Minister of Justice.
Okay.
Yes, and of course under judiciary.
That's
because law keeping must be there.
Appointed the Minister of Justice appointed by the President, by the King in this case.
The minister, yes, would be appointed by the King, but the Chief Justice should be someone who is qualified, should be employed. Because I don't like the issue of appointing then ratified. I would prefer if someone is picked on merit. They submitted a resume, then it is reviewed, then accepted.
Right.
Yes.
So it's the same way in dealing with the issues that we have of the permanent secretaries, district commissioners, and whatnot. All these are appointed by the president currently. And in the monarch system, in your case, Mr. Mwape, then what happens to such positions? Do you still again remain in their form to function in that way?
Maybe the permanent secretary, yes, not the DC. We don't need the DC when we have the chief as the boss of the chiefdom.
Okay.
And we have a prime minister to the chief in that particular chiefdom. So the position, these are structures of the colonial masters. We have our own structures, so we better stick to our own, because this is what we relate with very well. So such, no, we don't need them. We don't need to have these two systems running parallel to each other.
Okay.
Yeah, that is the bottom line.
But what these systems running concurrently, and then at one point one phases out, because already you seem to have a system that has been embedded in our governance system for a long time now. Won't you have a situation where at one point you run simultaneously, and then probably now the kingdom becomes supreme?
Yeah, kingdom is officially created. These systems must run parallel to each other, concurrently, like you put it. Yes, but there must be a time when the kingdom is properly created. I mean, it is now fully created and it is functional. We don't need them. They cease to exist.
One will be thinking again to say, why now? The timing of this light of Zambia, why has it come now? Or where has it come from? Is it something that you've always birthed and probably maybe been waiting for an opportune time such as now? Why now?
Yeah, I think everything remains in the hands of the Almighty. So in my belief, there is nothing that happens from nowhere. Everything that happens, it is because it is ordained by the Almighty, and it comes into fruition. So, of course, the main point that I will put across is that I've been studying the system of politics that we use in Zambia. I've held a lot of consultative discussions with a lot of people as to why our economy is not performing. You see, most of the answers that these people give are that, no, our leaders are selfish, our leaders are not good, our leaders are thieves. You see that? And to me, I say no, that doesn't make sense, because it can't be that every leader that we put in office should become either selfish or foolish at some point, for lack of a better term. You see? Then it means there must be a problem somewhere which we are not seeing. Then when I looked at it critically, then I realized to say the actual problem is actually the vehicle that we are using to govern ourselves, which is the system of governance. Democracy is a pack of bureaucracies. You see that? So because of these multiple bureaucracies, it becomes so easy for whoever is in office to misapply, misappropriate, and misuse public office or public funds. Because they know by the time they will be questioned, chances are high their political party will be out of power. You see that? So there will be no one to chase after them.
Right.
Yes.
One of the many things that you find in our current programs are aligned to do with the young people, the women, the elderly, the marginalized. In this case, we're talking about, those that are not able to meet up certain needs because of their state in which they find themselves in, for example, disability and so forth. So then, as a kingdom, as a monarch, how do you now intend to deal with this? Do you also have an approach where you sort of segment that this is for youth, this is for women? You're talking about now the major issues are issues of empowerment that are very specific.
A special group to me, or special groups that I could allude to, the youth or the young people, and the disabled, or should I say, let me simply say disabled.
Yeah.
or people with special needs. Yeah, I think that is the phrase I was looking for. So people with special needs, yes, they need special attention from the state. The youth, they need special attention from the state. Now, in the light of Zambia Manifesto, we've set it out to say we are not going to allow street kids to be in the street. And because the reason why that is not going to be possible, number one, is because we are going to have enough wealth in our country. That means it will be so easy for us to look after our own children. The reason why we have all these street kids around is because they want to find what to eat, for the most part. So when our economy is functioning and it is performing well, there will be no parent that would like to have their children in the street, or their maybe grandchild or niece or nephew in the street. And for the young people, we have to focus on improving technical skills. So we are promising that each and every chiefdom must have at least one technical college, so that those that are graduating from these high schools, they should so easily find space in those local colleges where they could get skills for their own livelihood. You see that, eh? Yeah. Now, that can only be done when you have enough financial muscle, when you have a strong financial muscle. But as things are today, it is impossible. It is almost difficult to be done. And of course, the other thing for the young people is that we are going to reintroduce the Zambia National Service. Of course, I've heard the president talking about that.
Yeah, he also has reintroduced it, but yes. Obviously it comes with a small fee and people have to be sponsored, but you're still talking about the same things in the monarch.
Yes, but of course, I can safely say, according to the way I looked at it, that is my policy. I talked about that earlier before you talked about it. I looked at his manifesto, it is not there.
Yeah.
But it was in my manifesto from day one. You see that? Eh? So now, the reason why I have a problem with running such a policy in a situation like today, economic situation like today, then it means we are just going to burden the national treasury more. You see? We need to have ample resources. We need to have enough money to be able to run such a program. I think KK managed to do that because he had his hands on the mines. You see that? Eh? Yeah. Now today we are depending on IMF. We are depending on the World Bank. We are depending on other creditors or credit institutions. That cannot sustain such a program.
So you still maintain then in such a case, these other sectors?
National health insurance, sorry. The reason why we are going all those steps, it's because we want to find a way of raising more money for the government to spend. Now, again, I'm saying if we nationalize our natural resources, it will be pointless for us to be getting money for national health insurance. You see that? We'll be able to run these such services for free to the people. When we talk about education, yes, we have to amend our curriculum. That is, a lot of people have talked about this. We have to amend our curriculum and make sure that it responds to our needs. We know what we need to focus on, but it's like our focus is somewhere else, because to a large extent, the system that we're using, the system of education that we're using, it is something that we just inherited. You see that? Yeah. So we should develop one almost from scratch that will fit the needs, so that our people can be productive as early as they graduate out of from high school.
How do you intend to democratize in their heads that Light of Zambia is proposing change of system into monarch, where you will be dealing with King Mwape now in this case? Looking at the competition is real and so forth. How do you intend to do this? And also, in terms of conviction, do you still have now a situation where obviously you have, but is this message speaking to the majority out there? Have you taken it to your let me use the word that you like using, you kings, your subjects, if I may use that term loosely, or your people?
To convince the masses, every person in Zambia, as long as you're honest, you're being honest to yourself, we know that things are not moving as expected. We've heard a lot of promises from these politicians, time in, time out. we have this government coming in, this government going out. They give us promises which they will never fulfill. And I'm telling you, my fellow Zambian, the reason why they are failing to fulfill is not because they hate you. It's not because they are selfish. It's not because they are bad people. No. It's because the system of governance that they are using is holding their hands back. They can't perform. You see that? They don't have money. Because once they they try to raise money, the only thing that comes into their mind is to try and borrow from somewhere. Now we are saying that is not sustainable. That cannot help our people out. So the only way we are going to get helped is when we have our hands on our natural resources, our gold, our copper, our nickel, our cobalt, our sujite. When that happens, I can assure you, my fellow Zambian, that it will become so easy now to put up that powerful hospital in some remote area. It will be so easy for us to put up third roads in so many different parts of Zambia and connect Zambia, because now we'll have money. You see? Okay. So that is the message to the Zambian people. Yes.
The civil service is described as the engine of government. In your setup now as a monarch, what kind of form or structure does this civil service take?
Like I said, we'll have like DCs, we don't need them. Of course, they're part of the civil service, but we don't need them. We'll have permanent secretaries, we can keep them because we'll have those ministries. Then we'll need teachers, we'll need nurses, we'll need police officers. But the thing is, this is one other thing that I have to emphasize. In the old model of governance, we envision to introduce an economic model that is going to rely on the private sector more. You see that? Instead of us employing, say, 50,000 teachers and pat ourselves on the back that we've done it, I think that is not very good. I know many people would argue against that, but that is not very good, because that is a burden that you are putting on the national treasury. So the best way could have been we make it easy for people like teachers, for example, doctors, and all these people with professions to set up their own institutions. Okay. Yes, their own companies, where they can now start consuming and assimilating some of these fellow professionals. You see that? So that we do not put this burden on the national treasury alone. Because I think you would agree with me, Mama Chacha. It's better to go to a private hospital than to go to a public hospital. You see that? So that means if we could have more private hospitals and we have a functional economy where people are making enough money in that economy, very few people will be frequenting these public hospitals. Right. Yes.
In terms of the popularity so far, how far you've gone in convincing your people in terms of just this ideology or this system of Light of Zambia, the monarch?
Okay. Not very much long ago. It started. Of course, I made it public on the 22nd of February 2024. So it has not reached very far, but with your help, like we're just doing right now, we can reach masses and people can hear about this message. So I can say it is in its infancy stage, but yeah, we hope to work vigorously to make sure that the message is disseminated out there.
In the current system, elected position, president, member of parliament, of course you've got a running mate and so forth, you've got mayors and whatnot. Even as things stand, going to election as a Light of Zambia, would you also field in positions of mayors and MPs in such a case? Or what happens? It's just you alone who takes part in an election to be king and then you change the status quo.
Remember, I talked about running a referendum to turn Zambia into a kingdom. So the other way to do it, I think, could be to have members of parliament, 2/3 of members of parliament support the idea, so that we could possibly amend the constitution to allow for the kingdom to be created. So in such a case, then we would need to participate in elections at parliamentary level, even fielding mayors and councillors, because all we need is to make sure that this message goes out. Now, these are the people that are already on the forefront, that are already talking to the people, to us in our communities. You see, so it is important to get them on board, then let them run as members of parliament, for example. When they are voted into office as members of parliament, then they know, at the back of their mind, that this is what we are looking at going forward. Yes. So when that time comes, it will become easy for us to switch to the kingdom, to the monarchy.
Zambia, obviously, by definition, we've come to comfort ourselves that we're not a landlocked but a land-linked country, but we still remain locked anyway by our geographic definition. So then, in terms of bilateral ties, now look at you, now you're a kingdom?
Yeah, but is that wrong? Because we have bilateral ties with Eswatini, Lesotho, the United Kingdom itself, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. So nothing will change very much in that area. Yes, we'll keep the relationship. That's the relationships that are already there. Yes.
Very interesting. In the case as you are presenting it, one of the things that the democracies grapple with are issues to do with corruption. We've seen where you have a fight against corruption that has come from a long time. You had a fight that actually we're calling zero tolerance to corruption and so forth, and it's been described as a thing that eats into the core of every economy of every country. Do you have it as light of Zambia and how you come and deal with this issue? Because I think it's a major issue. Now we've got, financial crimes court that entirely deals with economic crimes and financial crimes and so forth. Why all this in the name of trying to bring back the natural resources that you're saying, the natural resources that have actually, to some extent, now been ripped off from the many Zambians by their fellow Zambians in this case?
Yes, so I think the main reason why we have all this corruption in our country and in many other places where democracy is practiced is again because of the system of governance. Like I said earlier, democracy is a pack of bureaucracies. So because there are too many people involved in decision making, it becomes so easy for them to maybe connive and take away something. You see that? And they know by the time they will be chased up or the time they will be followed up to see how they use those monies, it will be too late. Maybe there will be another government that will have come into power, and so basically the problem that we have, the reason why corruption cannot go away, is because we have this gap between the monitors or supervisors and the people, the operatives that are working on the ground. You see that?
Kingdom that will rule those that are not just a domiciled where you are, but this is the kingdom that will rule the whole country.
Yeah, sure. I think the answer has been provided by His Excellency the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema.
Yeah.
Remember, there's a clip that keeps running around on social media, where he was saying when he was in a position, where he was saying UAE or Dubai does not have water as we do have it here, and yet they have power 24/7. What does that mean? It means when you have a monarch, when you have a kingdom in place, it is so easy to do projects like power generation. You see that?
Yeah.
Moreover, we have a lot of water bodies in Zambia, especially in the northern part of Zambia. We have plenty of them. So why don't we develop other power generation facilities on the northern part so that they are able to cater for the northern part of Zambia, and maybe somehow relieve the Kariba hydropower station from that pressure. You see that? So I think the major problem that we have, the reason why we are not progressing, is because of the system of governance. Once again,
system of governance.
Yes. Governance working elsewhere. So for example, we could, I don't know whether it means succession to the kingdom, or to the monarch, or to the chiefdom. So if it is to the chiefdom, to the chiefs, they know how they do it already. We are not proposing anything new to that.
Okay.
But to the kingdom, we could put up what is called a succession code. For example, like they've done it in Sweden, they have a succession act. which is part of the constitution, to determine who is going to come next after this one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But in such a case, in your case, it becomes different, isn't it? Especially when he's talking about, I think he probably means, especially in terms of at the helm, when you are king.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it will have to be someone within my family. Yes, because I'll not put up such a fight. This is not a small fight. That's why all these presidents that have been coming and going, they've not done it. They've not nationalized their natural resources.
Okay.
You see that? It's because they understand the magnitude of this fight. But me, I'm willing to go that extra mile. You see that? So will I do it for nothing?
0215-22-3847.
Yes, I think it is ready. I think what makes people to be ready is the message itself. If people can buy into this message, tomorrow it can be ready. The only thing that we have today, or the only gap that is there is no one that has proposed this kind of system before. You see that? So I know it is going out as a new philosophy or new idea that people have to start digesting. Yeah, so I think if properly explained, if people get to learn about it properly and properly understand it, I am more than convinced that we are ready for such a system.